Harris's very first interview, sit down on TV, of her presidential campaign. Now, she was not by herself. She was alongside her VP pick, Tim Walz. And this was pre-recorded. It was not live. I read that her motorcade was in downtown Atlanta, outside of CNN studios, for 6 hours, and she spoke for a grand total of 16 to 18 minutes. 16 to 18 minutes, that is how much Kamala Harris spoke for. Now, before we go any further, let's get right into the clips because we got a few, and I don't want to waste no time. Although, when I watched this, they wasted my time because this was a dumpster fire, okay? A good dumpster fire don't last this long, but I will link to everything in the description. And without further ado, let's go ahead and roll it.
Do you still want to ban fracking?
No, and I made that clear on the debate stage in 2020, that I would not ban fracking. As vice president, I did not ban fracking. As president, I will not ban fracking.
In 2019, I believe, at a town hall, you said you were asked, would you commit to implementing a federal ban on fracking on your first day in office? And you said, there's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking.
Look at this guy, Tim. This was really crazy. It was like he was her lawyer or a chaperone or a babysitter. And she's like really small, scrunched down in the seat. This is terrible. This is awful.
So yes. So it changed in that campaign?
In 2020, I made very clear where I stand. We are in 2024, and I've not changed that position, nor will I going forward. I kept my word, and I will keep my word.
Now, she says that she was not opposed to fracking. She said she didn't want to ban fracking. But let's go back, because we have the internet. It's forever. Let's go back, okay? This is the town hall she was referring to on CNN, by the way.
There's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking. So, yeah, and starting with what we can do on day one around public lands, right?
So what changed? I think that's David Bash. She was asking Kamala, hey, what changed? Because you did say you wanted to ban fracking because it was on CNN and we saw it. I probably was there. So what changed? And she didn't really want to answer the question. There was quite a few times where she would get pressed a little bit on a question, and then when she would refuse to answer, they would just move on. They wouldn't really press. Now, if that was Trump right there in that same situation, you know they would press very, very hard. All right, now let's keep on rocking and rolling here.
If you are elected, what would you do on day one in the White House?
Well, there are a number of things. I will tell you first and foremost, one of my highest priorities is to do what we can to support and strengthen the middle class. When I look at the aspirations, the goals, the ambitions of the American people.
Word salad, you're just talking about big words, aspirations, goals, okay. Now, let's talk about how you're the vice president right now. Why haven't these lofty goals been achieved under your administration? It's the Biden-Harris administration, isn't it? You're the vice president right now. Why have these things not been done in the 3.5 years you've been in office?
I think that people are ready for a new way forward.
A new way? You're in office right now. How is it new? It's a continuation of what's already been.
In a way that generations of Americans have been fueled by hope and by optimism. I think sadly, in the last decade, we have had in the former president someone who has really been pushing an agenda and an environment that is about diminishing the character and the strength of who we are as Americans, really dividing our nation, and I think people are ready to turn the page on that.
So what would you do day one?
Day one, it's going to be about, one, implementing my plan for what I call an opportunity economy. I've already laid out a number of proposals in that regard, which include what we're going to do to bring down the cost of everyday goods, what we're going to do to invest in America's small businesses, what we're going to do to invest in families, for example, extending the child tax credit to $6,000 for families for the first year of their child's life to help them buy a car seat, to help them buy baby clothes.
So only thing I've heard so far as it relates to policy is the child tax credit, $6,000. That's all I've heard so far.
The crib. There's the work that we're going to do that is about investing in the American family around affordable housing, a big issue in our country right now. So
Hi,
there are a number
what do you
of things
need?
on day one.
Sure thing.
I think the whole
Limo
thing
en
about
route.
affordable housing, there goes Tim Walsh getting ready to talk and add his 2 cents to clean up what she said. But the whole thing about housing, I think she was talking about giving $25,000 for down payments. Yet in California, I'm seeing illegal aliens get $150,000 toward down payments as taxpayer funded. But let's keep on going. Let's keep on going here.
You raised your hand.
Speaking about the border, is crossing the border illegal? Is that a crime, Ms. Kamala Harris? You let me know.
When asked whether or not the border should be decriminalized. Do you still believe that?
I believe there should be consequence. We have laws that have to be followed and enforced that address and deal with people who cross our border illegally, and there should be consequence. And let's be clear, in this race, I'm the only person who has prosecuted transnational criminal organizations who...
But before on Twitter, you said that nobody who comes into this country is illegal, something to that extent. If I am wrong, or if you have the correct quote, y'all let me know in the comments. But you're saying something else here. Now, it's okay to change your mind, but just say that rather than saying, oh, this is just my stance. And say, well, I changed my mind on this day for this reason. The same thing with the whole fracking kerfuffle, which you refuse to do. You refuse to admit that you said you wanted to ban fracking, and you didn't say when it changed. Same thing with this, if you've changed it all, which I doubt.
Trafficking guns, drugs, and human beings. I'm the only person in this race who actually served a border state as Attorney General to enforce our laws, and I would enforce our laws as president going forward. I recognize the problem.
Who are the guys in the suits? Middleman. Yep.
You're the middleman. That's big like everybody. Got middleman.
Now, they switched to Tim Walz. That's pretty much all you're going to hear from Kamala. That was pretty much it. I mean, there's more clips, obviously, but that's pretty much it from Kamala. Now you're going to get into Tim Walz.
You had to clarify that you had said that you and your wife used IVF, but it turned out you used a different kind of fertility in order to have children. And then when you ran for Congress in 2006, your campaign repeatedly made false statements about a 1995 arrest for drunk and reckless driving. What do you say to voters who aren't sure whether they can take you at your word?
Well, I've been very public. I think they can see my students come out, former folks I've served with, and they vouch for me. I certainly own my mistakes when I make them. The one thing I'll tell you is I wish in this country wouldn't have to do this. I spoke about our infertility issues because it's hell, and families know this. And I spoke about the treatments that were available to us that had those beautiful children there. That's quite a contrast in folks that are trying to take those rights away from us. And so I think people know who I am. They know that record. They've seen that. I've taught thousands of students. I've been out there.
Now, Tim Walz completely dodged the question because you heard the question. It's about the drunk driving and the IVF. He dodged the question, and she didn't really press him. Just let him dodge and keep on moving. That was a theme throughout the interview consistently. Now, as far as IVF, he may want to say that the other side is trying to ban it. Meanwhile, I just read that Trump himself, by the way, not just a tabloid or something like this, Trump wants the government to actually subsidize or pay for IVF, or maybe it could be something that the insurance pays for. So he's supporting IVF, and he's willing to put money behind it. So how are you going to say that he's trying to ban it? Those things don't line up. Those things don't line up, Tim Walz. Now, we got a little bit more.
I want to ask you a question about how you described your service in the National Guard. You said that you carried weapons in war, but you have never deployed actually in a war zone. A campaign official said that you misspoke. Did you?
Well, first of all, I'm incredibly proud. I've done 24 years of wearing the uniform of this country. Equally proud of my service in a public school classroom, whether it's Congress or the governor. My record speaks for itself, but I think people are coming to get to know me. I speak like they do. I speak candidly. I wear my emotions on my sleeves, and I speak especially passionately about our children being shot in schools and around guns. So I think people know me. They know who I am. They know where my heart is. And again,
Actually, I don't know you. I don't live in Minnesota. I've never been to your house before. I've not been invited to your cookout at your family reunion. I don't know you, sir. So I'd like for you to be able to tell the truth here rather than doing this dodging that you're being allowed to do over on the friendly network called CNN.
My record has been out there for over 40 years to speak for itself.
And the idea that you said that you were in war,
Yeah.
did you misspeak as the campaign has said?
Yeah, I said we were talking about, in this case, this was after a school shooting, the ideas of carrying these weapons of war. And my wife, the English, she told my grammar's not always correct. But again, if it's not this, it's an attack on my children.
All right, so that's pretty much the interview right there. That's pretty much that. Now I'm going to show you what Trump put out. I guess it's an email screenshot. He says, here's what Kamala Harris didn't talk about with CNN. And you can see what he said right here. She spoke for just over 16 minutes and didn't even address the crime crisis in this nation. She spent a mere 3 minutes, 25 seconds talking about the economy, 2 minutes, 36 seconds talking about immigration. Now, she did not address her support for ending cash bail for violent criminals, fundraising for the Minnesota Freedom Fund, which freed rioters, the tiebreaker vote for the American Rescue Plan that she put in, which economists say fueled inflation, her support for defunding the police, her comments comparing policing to slavery, her repeated praise of Bionomics, her support for Medicare for all, a socialist takeover of our healthcare system, support for closing immigration detention centers and freeing thousands of criminal migrants into American neighborhoods. Kamala saying we need to start from scratch with ICE and comparing ICE, that's immigration and customs enforcement, which is the guys that round up the illegal aliens, but she compared them to the Klan. And she also supported reparations and decriminalizing prostitution. All right. Now I know a lot of people going to say reparations, that's good, but don't hold your breath on that one. That's just her talking. She ain't gonna do nothing about that. The same. Look, if you had a black president and Barack Obama for 8 years and he didn't do anything, why is Kamala, who's not even black, going to do anything? But as I close, I want to say this. This was a terrible interview. 1 hour of total time, but only about 16 minutes of Kamala speaking. There were commercials. Listen, within about 42 minutes, there were 3 commercial breaks. And before and after each break was filler, promo filler for the next 5 minutes of content is going to come up. And then for the last 11 to 10 minutes, right around 9:50, they brought on a panel of CNN people talking about what they just saw, reacting to it, just like I would do. They did a reaction video at the end to fill the full 1 hour time slot from 9 to 10 Eastern. This was a mess. This was crazy. And when the debate happens on ABC September the 10th, oh my goodness, that's going to be the biggest dumpster fire in human history. And I think I'll leave that right there for now. And what say you? Did you watch the interview? Did you watch it with me? Did you watch it on CNN? Did you watch it somewhere else? Have you seen clips? Whatever your thoughts are, let me know in the comments below. You guys know where I'm at. This was really bad.